Hello, good afternoon, good morning, good evening. I don't know if we have anybody from Australia. How are you? Good to see you all. Some new faces today. Fantastic. Hey, type in the chat. Let me know where you're zooming in from. Always like to know where people are from. Houston, Vegas, Oregon, Connecticut. All right, we're spanning the US. That's good. We got Central, East, and West covered. Awesome. Very good. Normally Boston, Florida. All right. You're not leaving Minnesota, Kelly. You just mean that the snow is coming soon, right? Yeah. Okay. Cool. Well, good. So Brandon is going to be coming on. Let's see here. You guys hear me okay, right? Cool. All right. All right. Now, so this is what happens when you do a live video is that one of your partners has a fire alarm testing in his building. So Brandon, Brandon is currently getting blasted out by his fire alarm test, and hopefully it'll be on shortly. So I am going to I'm going to riff a little bit on something. I'm going to show off. Part of what we promised this week was that we would show off some videos. So I'm going to show a video first, and I want to see if any of you has seen it. So I'm going to get this thing queued up here. Yeah, this is the one. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and share this one. Optimize. All right, this is a real short video. So I'm going to go ahead and play this. Have any of you seen this?
Linked to memory. How are you? Here you go. Thank you.
Finals?
Yeah.
With 100% college tuition coverage for employees, we do our best to help our people become their best.
All right, so short
Linked to memory.
17-second commercial. I would love for you guys to unmute. I would just love to hear some of your feedback on that particular spot. Um, just in general, I want to just kind of get a sense of what the audience feels about it, and then I'll kind of dive into what I think the impact is. So, anybody want to be first? Beth, you're always on with me.
Was it something supposed to play? Because it just was frozen for me.
Was it frozen
The
for all of
audio
you?
was awesome, but yeah, I didn't see an image or anything, a video.
Oh, I'm sorry. Maybe that's related. That's related to the fact that we're live streaming. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Cool.
Can you put the link in the chat? We could all
I'm going
play
to
it.
do that. That is a great idea. So I'm going to pop that in there. It might be related to the fact that we're live streaming. So if you just click on that link, it's 17 seconds. So Brandon, is the fire alarm still going off?
Love it.
Cool. So it's a quick 17-second spot. Beth, tell me a little bit about what's your reaction to watching that? What do you think?
So I was emotionally drawn to it because of the she was paying to go to school, right? She was working to graduate.
Okay. So what information did that relay to you? What what do you know about after watching that video?
Hmm.
Anyone could jump
Question.
in.
I would say that they're looking for higher quality younger employees
Interesting.
that would want to go to college.
So you definitely see a recruiting angle that, huh, Richard?
Yeah.
Cool. Now it's interesting that they're running that to the public. Any other information that conveys to any of you in terms of like what does it tell you about Starbucks?
Yeah, I like that it focused on a problem real subtly, in that the problem is that college is expensive, and in that 17 seconds, it gives the problem and the solution. Starbucks. Like
Cool.
it's really cool.
Yeah, one of the things that struck me about that video when I saw it, I saw it on television, and what was really neat about it, number one, is they ran it on television and they had a URL in there to basically, hey, you want to see more Starbucks stories? It's starbucks.com/stories. So one of the things I loved is that it took me from one medium to another. That was a really nice touch. And I was struck too. I definitely saw the recruitment angle. And, the environment here in the United States is that it's been very difficult coming out of the pandemic economy to attract and retain good workers. And so one of the things that they are doing is they're projecting out that, hey, not only can you work at a great company, but we're going to pay for your college education. So it provides an alternative to the unemployment check, and it provides a direct solution to people. Now, there's something to be said about people who are attending college. There's kind of a projection of there's discipline involved, right? If you're going to be going to school, you're making a financial commitment. You are, making commitment to do well in school and things like that. So they're definitely recruiting for a certain type of person. Now, from a consumer angle, you look at this and go, okay, I like this. There's definitely a corporate kind of, not a charitable angle, but look, Starbucks is doing something good for its workers, and it makes you feel good about going to Starbucks because now you're not just buying $5 or $8 cup of coffee, you are supporting young men and women who are looking to pay for their college. So I think one of the things that we always talk about in terms of video, one of the questions I should say is that how long should my video be? Now, in that case, that was a 17-second video and it had a pretty big impact. Now, it doesn't mean that every good video is 17 seconds, right? We're going to show a video later if Brandon's fire alarm ever goes off, which is about 5 minutes. So we're going to play that for you. And the idea will be that we want to show you how to project and portray a different type of message for something completely different than coffee. So I find that to be, I just found that to be a really nice use of video. There was another video that came out over the holidays from Amazon. Do any of you remember that video at all? I don't see any hands.
The one with the that was doing ASL.
That was one of them.
Okay.
That was one of them. Another one that was
Driver,
pretty interesting
family.
was there was a young woman who is a dancer, and of course everything got canceled during COVID, right? Productions, all those things. And so what she was doing is she was putting a performance on the rooftop of the building next door, and one of the guys had purchased a spotlight on Amazon and showed it down and kind of basically projected her performance. So that was Amazon tying into a shared experience, right? So what happened there was we all had things that were shut down. We had all things that were canceled during, 2020. And so one of the things that did was it tied us to a shared experience. It got us all to a same emotional state. And then we celebrated the fact that, like most Americans and most people around the world, what they did was they found a way to get it done. And so this was a really good example of that. And Amazon can subtly project their brand into that, right? And say, hey, we could help you with that, but it wasn't the main feature. It was definitely, the focus was on the activity, and it's a subtle kind of brand building thing. So that was another one that really struck me It's really hard to remember commercials that aren't Super Bowl commercials. But that was one that had run both online and on television, and it conveyed a message without doing a whole lot of selling and things like that. So that's another good one. Brandon, how are you doing, my friend?
Oh, I'm standing in the lobby of my apartment. They decided to do a fire alarm test today at the perfect time of this call.
Cool. So I need you to let me know when you're
My
settled, because
lobby?
your internet's pretty slow right now.
Okay.
So I think once you can
Oh.
settle down, your Wi-Fi will be cool.
All right. I will kill video.
So Brandon, do you want me to play the next video?
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. Let's
All
jump
right.
in. I appreciate you guys being patient with me. It's kind of crazy.
All right, I'm going to try to hopefully, so last time you guys weren't able to see the video, right? All right, I'm going to try and do this so that you guys could see it, and I apologize. I'm going to check with you as I play it.
Okay.
All right.
There's that little button that says like optimize video clip. I have no idea what it does, but hypothetically.
Yeah, no, that's definitely a clip. I'm just wondering why it wasn't playing through for you guys. I thought it might be related to the fact that we're live streaming on multiple platforms. So I want to see if you guys, are you able to see the Vimeo page right now? Cool. Okay, I'm going to play it.
I do not know any other strategy that generates.
You guys seeing any motion at all?
No, just audio.
It's just audio. That's so strange. All right, let's see here. I'm going to try something different. Now you're going to see yourselves. Let's try this.
More wealth than this. The hook of the seminar was.
Were we seeing video that time? Let's see, I can't see you.
Yes.
Okay, great. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and get this back to the beginning, and we're going to let this thing play out. Brandon, go ahead and jump in and tell me when you want to pause, or if you want me to pause the video in any way, okay?
All right. Sounds good. Do we want to watch the whole thing
I do
through,
not
then dissect it? Or do we
It's
want
up to you. It's up to you.
How many minutes is
This
Let's
one's-
watch the whole thing through, and then let's go back through and we'll deconstruct it.
Okay, sounds good.
No, any other strategy that generates more wealth than this. The hook of the seminar was meet the guy who's worth $200 million who works 1 hour a day. I got flack for this. I had public accusations. Perry's selling porn. Perry's trying to dangle some, no work fantasy in front of people. And that's a fantasy and it just doesn't work. When we did the Star Principles seminar, Richard was worth 200 million US dollars. Today he's worth 1.2 billion US dollars. He's gone from fractional billionaire to more than billionaire in 7 years. And his strategy hasn't changed. It's the same strategy he teaches in that seminar. I never would have believed, had I not seen it for myself, that it's really possible to make that kind of money and not work all the time.
Whether it's at the moment or whether it's 10 years later, which, by the way, was the span of influence this event had for me. I was happy leaving. It helped me make a big decision about 5 years later, and it sort of predicted the ultimate sale of my company a few years after that. I'm Donnie Wyatt, founder and former CEO of CoConstruct, a SaaS company that I started in 2005 and recently just sold to a private equity firm.
We don't need thousands of new business books every year the way that we have. There's only a few business books that you need to read. There's only a few things that you need to master. Most people don't think this way. Most people don't go looking for principles. Most people are looking for the latest thing, the brightest shining object, not the thing that worked and worked and worked and worked. Star Principle Essentials is the 20% that is the most important part of the event. We distilled a 3-day seminar down to a few hours of the most absolutely key critical content. These are presentations that you want to watch or listen to, your choice, over and over and over again. If you have this in your muscle memory, you'll immediately spot, oh, that's an opportunity. You'll immediately go, that's a waste of time. not spending my time doing that. This has generated huge success stories out of Planet Perry. And if it worked for the last 7 years, it'll work for the next 7 years. I happen to know it'll work for the next 50 years because we're dealing with things that don't change.
So I knew about Richard Koch from the 80-20 principle. And so when I saw the STAR principle come along, it really intrigued me because 80-20 had been really burned into my mindset and helpful in the business. And so I was looking for that next thing to add into sort of my strategic toolkit. So that was where I joined the seminar for STAR Principles Essentials. And it gave me this whole other way of looking at my business that really did play out sort of as predicted over the following 8 to 9 years after the seminar.
My friend Bill Harrison said, Perry, most people can't relate to Richard Koch. It's like talking to a basketball team about Michael Jordan. It's like, this is way beyond what like anybody can imagine. Donnie Wyatt is a regular guy who started a software as a service company that manages building projects for home builders. Casey Graham is a guy who made an app for collecting offering money for churches. Tim Francis was a marketing consultant who realized that he needed to put together a system for helping people hire virtual assistants. Megan Macedo was a copywriter, webmaster, trying to figure out who she was. And all of these people had breakthroughs as a result of what Richard teaches. None of them are anywhere near $200 million today, but they're worth 10 times more than they were then by applying principles to their particular profession that I knew and they now know are not going away.
I think the right mindset for this is you're going to watch it, you're going to hear stories, and you're going to pull those nuggets out. And maybe that applies to the moment, maybe it doesn't, but it's those principles that you start to bake into how you view the world that will start to affect things over the coming years as you're working on your business. And so I've appreciated more the seminar, the more time that has passed. I get to see it play out and realize how it shapes your thinking is where the ultimate impact really is.
One of the things that I learned from Richard is that there's only 3 or 4 things that really matter, and almost everything else is noise. It is distractions. It is irrelevant. If it doesn't check certain boxes, it's not the opportunity. The thing that students of me and Richard get is a certain level of immunity to those kind of distractions. There's just not that many things that matter. There's only a few things that you need to focus on right now.
If I was talking to myself back at the time of sitting on stage, it's like, dude, you need to go like do some of these things now and run hard after it and believe that this is real.
I can't even tell you how many entrepreneurs spend years of their life applying good copy, good marketing, good principles, good techniques to businesses that fundamentally cannot win. Do you want to use industry standard best practices to polish turds? If you put yourself in the right market with the right audience, with the right product, you will look like a genius even though you're not. You don't have to be a genius to become wealthy. In fact, one of the things I learned from Richard is the smartest guy in the room is never the richest guy in the room. The smartest guy works for the richest guy. The richest guy asks the right questions. The smartest guy answers them. You want to be the rich guy who asks the right questions, and STAR Principle Essentials will teach you the questions you should be asking. And you need to be asking these questions every day, because every single day, whether it's within your business or looking outside of your business, there are opportunities that come and come and come. No, 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 no. And then there's yes.
I would say to somebody that's out there looking at this today, you should watch it. You should pull down those principles, think about it in your worldview, but don't leave it there. Don't put it as sort of the interesting factoid that helps explain some stuff in the world. Like take 10% of that time, 20% of the time and say, hey, this is tactically what this means. And here's my plan to go execute it. Maybe not next week, but maybe over the next year or 18 months, but start on it. Don't leave it in the interesting strategic section. Pull it forward and you'll really gain more confidence around what that strategy in action looks like and what it can deliver for you.
In 30 years of investing, Richard Koch has invested in less than 25 companies. He has said no, 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 over and over and over and over again. And it's grown his wealth from $4 million to $1.2 billion in 30 years. If you can find anybody else who can match that track record, teaching in an entrepreneurial context, tell me about it, because I haven't seen it. This is totally unique. It is very rare for somebody to be able to bridge the entrepreneur world and the investor world and to seamlessly move between them. Star Principle Essentials does exactly that.
All right. Cool. All right, Brandon. Did you jump back in if your fire alarm is off?
You can't make this stuff up.
That's funny. Just go ahead,
5 more
Brandon.
minutes. I'm going out in my patio. All right, here we go.
We'll make do with it.
This is the life right here. This is the life. Yeah, they're behind. All right, here we go. All right, so this is one of our best videos that we've created for Perry. We've done a lot of work with Perry over the years, and Perry's, we get to know our clients, and we, Perry has a pattern that he follows. Perry riffs for 7 minutes, and what you just saw there was 2 hours, maybe 2.5 hours of work between myself, Bob, and Perry. Come down to about an 8-minute video. Is that what it was? So with Perry, the thing that I always have to do with him, and I'm going to encourage you to ask yourself this question is at the end of the day, what does the person get? Okay. So I am always kind of bringing Perry back to that, because Perry is amazing at pontificating. He's wise. He's a brilliant guy. I still have to help him sell. We still have to help him create a video that sells. Now, you notice there was nothing smarmy about it. There's no high pressure. There's none of that stuff that maybe we've encountered along the internet marketing community, VSLs. This is very much an influence play, but there's a lot of devices inserted into this video that make it super effective. So Bob, you play the first 30 seconds.
All right.
Just go to that.
I'll jump back to that.
Works. I do not know any other strategy that generates more wealth than this. The hook of the seminar was meet the guy who's worth $200 million who works 1 hour a day. I got flack for this.
Okay, so within the first 5 to 10 seconds, it's always some type of a headline. You're going to see the same formula that you see in every direct response sales letter you've ever watched. Every VSL, there's denominators, and this is one of the denominators. What did Perry do with the very first 5 seconds? He spouted out a headline, and he says, I have not seen anything, something like this. I forget exactly what he says. So what is that designed to do? Well, if you know Perry and you're on his list and you've been following him, for Perry Marshall to say, I haven't seen anything like this is kind of like, whoa. Well, if Perry hasn't seen it, then I better pay attention. If Perry's impressed with this, I better pay attention. He's not calling you out with some kind of a smarmy, false scarcity, discovered. No, he's just being honest. Perry is uncompromising with his integrity. That's why we love to work with him, and we work with his style. Oh, it went off. I'm going back inside. So the first thing he does is we figure out a way to grab people by the throat to get their attention. And that's how we did it with this particular promotion with Perry. So first we get your attention by saying, wow, if Perry's impressed, then I better pay some attention here. So Bob, go ahead and continue.
Public accusations. Perry's selling porn. Perry's trying to dangle some, no work fantasy in front of people. And that's a fantasy and it just doesn't work. When we did the Star Principle seminar, Richard was worth $200 million US. Today he's worth 1.2.
So Perry just addressed the elephants in the room. again, all of us have been trained by internet marketing and smarmy sales. So he's calling out the elephants. He's saying, okay, Perry, here we go. Honestly, you know, are you selling us air? What are you doing? So he just labeled like 3 things that he addressed: potential objections, skepticism, you know, side-eye glance, if you want, that people can already be thinking about or will be prepared. Yeah, so people are already starting to maybe formulate, because that's a really big claim that Perry just made. So he's beginning to dismantle objections and resistance around that claim. So we can keep going.
$2 billion US. He's gone from fractional billionaire to more than billionaire in 7 years, and his strategy hasn't changed. It's the same strategy he teaches in that seminar.
One of the things there that strikes me, Brandon, is some people are having some issues.
We can just do audio. Can everyone hear audio? When we play audio, audio is fine.
Okay.
See in the video.
Okay. So one of the things there, I don't know if you caught it, but he credentializes the subject. So this is a seminar with Richard, and one of the things he did was he credentialized him there. So there's, you know, kind of like a, why should I listen to this, or why is this important? He kind of has this big bomb where he's like, he's worth $1.2 billion. You know, so that is something that's pretty important there. So, Brandon, you want me to just share screen differently?
Yeah, let's just do audio. Yeah, the audio is
Okay.
fine since we're having.
So if I play this, just let me know if you're hearing audio.
Never would have believed, had I not seen it for myself, that it's really possible to make that kind of money and not work all the time.
Whether it's at the moment or whether it's 10 years later, which, by the way, was the span of influence this event had for me. I was happy leaving. It helped me make a big decision about 5 years later, and it sort of predicted the ultimate sale of my company a few years after that. I'm Donnie Wyatt, founder and former CEO of CoConstruct, a SaaS company that I started in 2005 and recently just sold to a private equity firm.
We'll talk about that, Brandon.
Yeah. So a couple things. So again, what Perry does is he's playing the kind of the journalist at large when he says, I have to see it for myself. Okay. Because that's what everyone in the audience watching the video is saying. Come on, really? Guy works an hour a day, 200 billion, whatever he's 2 billion. Come on, really? Perry takes on the role of the viewer, saying, well, I had to go see it for myself, because that's what you're saying, the viewer. I got to see this for myself. So he takes on the role as, I'm going to be the one in charge. I'm going to be the hero. I'm going to make sure this isn't BS. I'm going to make sure this is real before I offer it to you, my audience. And then it's followed up immediately with a case study. Now, we specifically used a couple different case studies or testimonials rather, of the average Joes. And I'll explain why in a minute if you want to keep going, Bob.
I think too, even before I do that, Brandon, the placement of this is kind of important. So what we've just done about a minute, was it about a minute and a half of Perry? And so we switched to one of his clients who was at the seminar to kind of break up so that, you know, you attention wise, you're constantly shifting. You're not just listening to an 8-minute montage from Perry, it's clipping in between. And so we're actually putting, one of the things we like to do with a case study or testimonial is that person is a representative of you, the audience. And so they are talking about their experience in terms of using the product or using the service in question. And so this helps credentialize the salesperson, in this case, Perry, without Perry having to be just the only voice that's selling this. He's actually talking about somebody who is there and then getting that person on camera to verify what Perry is saying about him and about the product or the seminar to help, you know, sell the thing. So that timing is important there. All right, so I'm gonna keep going.
If you want to go to the end, okay. If you can go to the end of that testimonial, just for sake of time, if you want to go to the end of that testimonial or just let it go, whatever you want to do.
It's at the end.
thousands of new business books every year the way that we have. There's only a few business books that you need to read. There's only a few things that you need to master. Most people don't think this way. Most people don't go looking for principles. Most people are looking for the latest thing, the brightest shining object, not the thing that worked and worked and worked and worked. Star Principle Essentials is the 20% that is the most important part of the event. We just
Okay. So what Perry's doing now is he's calling out his audience, and he's saying who this is not for, which is a common question when we're interviewing. We're sitting there with Perry. He's like, okay, who's it for? Who's it not for? And so what he's doing is he's pushing away people who are looking for the quick fix. They're looking for the magic bullet, and people who are willing to eat broccoli and go to the gym. They're not looking for the anti-fat pill or whatever it is. He's saying, listen, he's subtly, not so subtly saying, if that's you, this isn't for you. If you're looking for the magic pill, this isn't the seminar for you. So he's doing some disqualification.
Okay.
distilled a 3-day seminar down to a few hours of the most absolutely key critical content. These are presentations that you want to watch or listen to, your choice, over and over and over again. If you have this in your muscle memory, you'll immediately spot, oh, that's an opportunity. You'll immediately go, that's a waste of time, not spending my time doing that. This has generated huge success stories out of Planet Perry. And if it worked for the last 7 years, it'll work for the next 7 years. I happen to know it'll work for the next 50 years because we're dealing with things that don't change.
So I
Great. Hit that
Good,
there,
good.
Brandon.
Yeah, really solid. So a couple of key things that Perry said is distill. Okay, so Perry in past videos and past emails has talked about the shift in information marketing and even the information consumption. And he is a seller of information and coaching and programs. And one of the shifts and claims he made a few years ago was he says, listen, the new name of the game is not, you know, hours and hours and hours and hours of training and buying the big box that arrives in the mail with CDs, DVDs. He's saying we're shifting out of those days. And he used the word distill because his audience, we don't have time to sit down for 3 days of hours and hours and hours and hours. So distill was a huge thing because he's already referenced that in a past. We know that's a part of his philosophy. And we want to support that. It's kind of like inserting a reference because he will reference this in his other sales videos. So if his audience has watched other sales videos, which we know they have, he's bringing up a similar concept that he's repeating. And once that concept is repeated, it gets buried in your head like, oh, this is important, let me pay attention. So what he's saying is, I'm taking stuff off of your plate. If you show up to this, if you participate in this, I'm not going to give you a bunch of things to do. And matter of fact, I'm going to take so much off of your plate that it's going to make you that much more effective. The other thing he does is he talks about muscle memory, which is a common term used in fundamentals of sports. Football, jiu-jitsu, you name it, muscle memory, as we all know, we can all relate to that. We know that's training our bodies to do fundamental things without thinking about it. So very powerful word, and Perry's a master of words, as we know. And to be able to, and then what he starts to do, he starts to get into what do I get, which is a common thing when we're working with Perry. He's like, okay, Perry, what do we get? What's the people going to get? And right there, he starts to go to, you're going to be able to see. You're going to be able to look at opportunities, and there's 1,000 that come through our boxes and emails a day, and say, oh, that's one. That's something I should pay attention to. So he's saying, you're going to get X-ray vision. You're going to get a secret. You're going to get a technique, a way of thinking that's going to separate you from 99% of people out there who are jumping on quote unquote opportunities. So that's a huge, big thing he's talking about.
So this is really a lesson. So when we're sitting down with any client, and you know we're showing you Perry today, we could show you one of 5 dozen clients. But one of the things that we aim to do in any video session, especially if they're selling a simple product, a service, whatever, is getting down to like 2 things. Number one is, these days, simplicity sells. Okay, that's the one thing what Brandon was talking about, is we used to sell things basically we sold bloated things like you're going to get, yeah, Brandon mentioned this, like 50 CDs and a whole box of stuff. And we tried to overwhelm them with like, all this information is going to change your life. What we're seeing now, no matter if we're selling tax preparation, if we're selling, we have a client called Campus Cooks that puts chefs inside of fraternity and sororities. They're not selling complexity. They're selling how simple it is, how easy it is. There's no there's no additional work on your part. So the common thing we've been seeing over the last couple of years with our clients is we're having to find what is the simple thing that you're delivering to them. Don't try to overcomplicate and wham them over the head with you get this and you get this and you get this and you get this. That's an antiquated selling mechanism. So what people are looking for is how do I do this simply? How can I achieve the results simply? And so you want to project that in your sales video so that that's coming across as, okay, Perry had this 3-day seminar and he distilled it. He took out the 20% that's the most important. It's kind of like going back to high school and getting the yellow book. I forgot what that
Cliff
was.
notes.
Cliff notes.
Yeah, Cliff notes.
Right?
Exactly.
Like
Yeah.
how many of us like used Cliff Notes to write our book reports, right? It was like, give me the 20% of the book that I need to write a good report.
Yes.
That's what the consumers are looking for. And then the other thing, Brandon, that this always seems to get missed when we're doing video critiques is they're not specific about what you get. One of the things that you want to do when you are selling something, Brandon, you always say this, like people want to know they're part of a unique process. Like they don't necessarily want to choose their own journey. They actually want the comfort of knowing that they're being locked into a process. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure. I got that from Ari Galper, just a wonderful Planet Perry guy who has done sales training for years. He did a presentation a couple of years ago. And he said that, I thought, oh, wow, that's brilliant, is that people want to know they're part of a process. So I don't know if you've ever hired a company or been part of a service. And, it's kind of like, when you hire a service, you kind of expect to say, okay, someone's going to hold me by the hand and they're going to take me down this road and it's going to solve a problem. And we get a little shaky or we start questioning when we don't notice, we don't observe, we don't perceive they have a process and how to handle us. So this is something, it not necessarily applies too much to this video. It would apply to maybe kind of a next step video or video where, let's say it's on your website or social media and you're welcoming people to set up maybe a discovery call, something like that. I always encourage people, no matter if your business has 30 different steps or 100 different steps, to take your process of say onboarding or fixing said problem down to 3 to 5. So it could sound like this, step 1, we're going to get on a call. We're going to find out exactly the heart of your problem. We're going to figure out what's going on. Let's just use weight loss, for example. We're going to find out what's going on in your body. We're going to do a blood test. We're going to figure out the core of what you're dealing with. Number 2, we're going to map your diet for 2 weeks. So we're going to see what your intake is like. And step 3, we're going to come up with a customized plan that's going to work with your schedule, your life, your kids. It's going to be comfortable. It's actually going to be fun. So if by just mapping that out and helping you help manage your expectations, you're making people feel comfortable. So I encourage all of you when you're creating videos is when it comes to that time to say, when people say, okay, how does this work? You're going to be able to nail it in 3 to 5 steps. You've done this before, I promise you. If you've ever sat down with a client or you're in an elevator, you have a drink at the bar or coffee or whatever, dinner, and they say, what's it like to work with you? You have spit this out. You have said this. And the only thing that Bob and I are doing are capturing that on video and priming you when we interview you is to get those simple concepts out. This is not something you have to reinvent. The only thing we encourage is kind of keep it maybe like 3 big steps, one big overarching umbrella.
So Brandon, a question probably is going on people's mind. They heard you say that we spent 2.5 hours with Perry to make this 8-minute video. Can you talk about why it took 2.5 hours in the studio to produce 8 minutes?
Sure. So 80% of what I do, and I'm primarily doing kind of the interviewing with clients, is getting people out of their head. And I'm mirroring them. I'm kind of feeling into their energy and where they're at. And then I'm letting them, I've got to figure out how they communicate pretty quickly. Now, Perry, we've been working with for years. What I have to do with Perry, and it's kind of funny, is Perry will pontificate for the first hour or hour and a half. And he's really good. I mean, no criticism of Perry. The stuff that comes out of his mouth is amazing, right? However, there's a threshold of how much people will listen to and how much is relevant to the promotional video we're creating. So I help Perry kind of work through that first hour and a half. The other thing that Perry does, which Bob and I didn't even know this when we were working with Perry and with others, is Perry will actually write the sales letter with us. Generally, we like people to come with an outline, and we do some preparatory calls, and we say, hey, be thinking about the close, and be thinking about, features, benefits, typical things that are in a sales letter. Well, Perry will just show up sometimes. He'll just show up with nothing, and we're just going to go. And it's a lot of fun, actually, because what we do, Bob and I do in that environment, is we will push him to give us what we need to make us an effective sales video. We force him to say, hey, Perry, what are people going to get? What are they really going to get? And he'll give us some resistance, and he'll sort it out in his head, and then he'll give it to me. So in that 2.5 hours or so, a lot of it is actually formulating it on the fly. And then what I like to do is I like to play devil's advocate, and I like to push back and challenge certain things to poke holes in it. And then he will respond, give me the footage I need, which actually I'll show you here in a minute. One of the things he says in a second is because we pushed back on something, and he filled it in right away perfectly. Did that answer?
Yeah, I'm actually Stephanie has a question, and I'm gonna
Cool.
answer that. So I think what we want to stress is that Perry's kind of unique. Perry's been doing video with us going on 5 years. So he has a level of comfort in front of the camera and kind of knows how to start the process, right? And so he's able to come in with a concept and a bulleted list of things, and we kind of go through and do that. What we do with most clients, I'm just going to share this real fast. This is something that our clients get, so I'm not going to give out the PDF. I'm just going to kind of show you is that every client essentially follows this worksheet. And so what we do is when we sit down, part of what we're doing is interviewing. And what we're trying to do is help you get specific with certain things. So there's just some major segments that we do. There's always an intro. You notice in every video, at least when you're kind of introducing yourself, there's at least some intro in there. But we're trying to pull a little bit of your backstory out. We dive into your specialties. What are the unique problems you solve for your clients? Why is that important? We talked about process. We want you to detail your process. Number 5 is examples of transformation. We want you to demonstrate to the public, demonstrate to your market that you've solved this problem before by telling stories of transformation of your clients and customers. And then you're going to do
Bob.
What's that?
Scroll down. We can't see 5. Scroll down.
I'm sorry, I'm there.
Oh, okay. It's not coming through. Sorry. Keep going.
Yeah, it's probably just a little bit slow because we're doing a live stream. So, and then the 6th thing is call to action. So we don't ever script videos, and we don't recommend that anybody script a video at all. What we want you to do instead is come in prepared. And so if you're sitting down and doing this yourself, we have a whole course, videos that sell course that Brandon goes into great detail. But what you're doing here is you're getting the camera on, but we encourage you to have somebody in the room with you. We are humans, and we are meant to interact with people. We are not wired to look straight into a camera lens and be brilliant. It's just not possible. If you're an actor or a newscaster, you're probably really good at it. But even so, that takes years of practice. So how do we as amateurs kind of get this type of video we need? And the way we want to have you do it, the way we encourage you to do it, is to talk with somebody. Have a conversation with somebody behind the camera. The camera essentially becomes a second person in the room, your primary person that you're talking with is the one that's across from the camera. That is going to completely transform the way you approach video because you're no longer in your head. I had a conversation with a prospect yesterday, Brandon, and she said that she had spent 2 hours trying to do a bio video and it's still not done. And I explained to her this. I said, here's what we do. When we look at the lens, number one, our energy gets shrunken, and so we do that. But here's what happens. There is a critic in your head that's constantly bugging you and saying, like, it's critiquing your performance. Okay. So you have an inner critic critiquing your performance, and it's bogging you down. The second thing that you're doing is you're self-editing while you're speaking. Okay. We don't do that in a conversation. Okay. In a conversation, we speak freely. But when you were talking to a camera, you have this editor, you have this critic. So you have these two loud voices that are yelling in your ears, and you're trying to create content. And that's why it takes 2 hours to get something done, and it never ends up getting done because you're never going to be satisfied with it. You're going to do 10 different takes, 15 different takes. What you really want to do is have somebody off camera who can mirror your energy, who can keep your energy up, and you could answer the questions. So they could have that outline in front of them, and they could be firing questions, and you could just keep answering questions. If you don't particularly like the way they responded to the answer, to the question, you could answer it differently. But that's one of the keys for us. We have trained directors, right? Brandon will be with a client, or one of our directors will be with a client, and we're really good at getting that out of you. But if you're doing them yourself, you definitely got to have somebody there with an outline who can just lead you through that conversation, and you'd be amazed how much you can get done, right, Brandon?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Cool.
Yeah. And you can even, in some cases, I've posted a picture. I've taken a piece of paper and driven a smiley face on the wall when I'm alone, when I'm doing my own filming, and I've slapped it on the wall to give me something to focus on. Just seriously, it's that simple, guys. Give yourself an imaginary person to focus on. I focused on pillows, lamps. I mean, it's just giving yourself a point of reference. Your imaginary friend is sitting right there and you're talking to him.
Cool. If anyone else has questions as we're going along, like Stephanie, pop them in the chat. We'd be glad to answer them. We've about 10 minutes left, Brandon. Do you want me to go back? Do you want me to fast forward at all?
Just that there was the one clip where he talks about, I really wanted people to see that because that was a point of, we pushed back and he gave us what we needed. Let's just see where we're at there. Get past
Knew
that.
about Richard Koch from the 80-20 principle and to add into looking at my business.
My friend Bill Harrison said, Perry, most people can't relate to Richard Koch. It's like talking to a basketball team about Michael Jordan. It's like, this is way beyond what anybody can imagine. Donnie Wyatt is a regular guy who started a software as a service company that manages building projects for home builders. Casey Graham is a guy who made an app for collecting offering money for churches. Tim Francis was a marketing consultant who realized that he needed to put together a system for helping people hire virtual assistants. Megan Macedo was a copywriter, webmaster, trying to figure out who she was. And all of these people had breakthroughs as a result of what Richard teaches. None of them are anywhere near $200 million today, but they're worth 10 times more than they were then by applying principles to their particular profession that I knew and they now know are not going away.
I think the right.
Good.
Love that.
Okay.
Talk about that.
So that was, I remember the conversation with Perry is, Perry, you got to build a bridge because 99.9% of people who are watching cannot relate to being worth 2 billion or whatever it was. You've got to make me believe, you got to make me a believer because in my brain, I'm listening to this. I'm like, oh, that's a dream. Work to an hour a day and be worth this much. That's way far. I can't even think about that. My brain isn't capable of that. You have to build a bridge between where I am now and take me there. So that's what he did. Because I know that people will disqualify themselves. They're like, oh, Richard Koch, oh, the billionaire again. Great. Yeah, I'm never going to be him. Again, it's just reality. It's like my little business, whatever it is never going to be that. Well, what Perry's trying to say, listen, the bridge is the principles. The bridge is not, you may never be the billionaire, but your business could be worth 10 times what it is today. 20 times what it is today. And then he proceeds to insert average Joes. Casey Graham had an app. You know, Casey will tell you his story. We know Casey, great and phenomenal guy. He was delivering, I think, what was he? He was delivering something, and he came up with this idea for an app, and it
Well,
blew up.
he was selling like bulletin services and a bunch of stuff
for
to churches
churches.
door to door, and then he kind of came up with this app as an afterthought.
Yeah. So what Perry just did right there, and I want to encourage you to do, is make me a believer. Is show me how I can personally benefit from this. I can't relate to Richard Koch, but if you're telling me that it's a series of principles that make him what he is, and not because he's a genius or because he had a great trust fund or he had all the right luck, and you're going to give me, you're stating that, and you're also giving me 3 examples of people in Planet Perry that did it, then now you've built a bridge. Now you're like, oh, okay, I can do this, which is imperative if you're going to sell somebody.
Yeah, I think the real strategy here, Brandon, is you need to list out the things that your potential buyers would go BS, right? Like what do they not believe about what you're offering? And so in this case, you know, what we're doing is we're listening to Perry creating, we're going, all right, how does somebody who makes less than $1 million, most of Perry's clients are probably making less than $1 million. So why would we listen to a billionaire? Like that's totally beyond that. And so that response there was a direct challenge from us to like answer that question. And what was good about that is he not only answered the question, he gave specific examples. So, you know, and what we did with the B-roll, I don't know if you noticed, was we showed pictures of each person. You know, we had Casey, we had Megan, we had Donnie, we showed them, and it visually we were reinforcing like, oh, here's Casey, he's wearing like, you know, a J.C. Penney shirt and Levi's. You know, here's Megan, who's just kind of sitting at a conference and learning like everybody else. We associated the visual with what he was saying in the video, and that reinforced the fact that, okay, these are just normal people who aren't doing $10 million, by the way. And Perry like made that clear. I'm not saying these companies are 10 million. They're not doing it, but they're 10 times better today than they were because they were there. So, you know, you have to kind of explicitly call out and address the elephant in the room, as Brandon likes to say, but then give them specific examples why that elephant really is no worry or no concern to you. So I don't know, Brandon, probably we want to jump maybe to the end here.
Yeah, or any questions? Those are kind of the main things I wanted to hit on there.
Okay.
Trying to think.
Let's talk a little bit about the close.
Okay.
So this is interesting. So this video, by the way, this is not going out to cold traffic. All right, this is what we call a bottom of funnel video. So if you've listened to any kind of my deep funnel talks, there's top of funnel for cold traffic, middle of funnel for warming people up, and then bottom of funnel for really warm traffic. So your own in-house customer list and people who have bought from you, those are who this video is targeted to. So we don't need kind of all the build up. We don't need to get attention. We don't have to do all the things that you typically do at a top of funnel situation. What we're doing is we're kind of getting right to the point. You know, this is $1,000 product, I believe. And so like we need to do a good job of selling it, but we also knew where the audience was starting. So we were able to kind of jump in and hit them across the eyes. And then this is part of a sales process. So if any of you saw this promotion from Perry, you know it's going to a sales page. It's sitting there front and center with the headline. The bullets are underneath it that kind of detail what you get, and the actual call to action is below. So we don't necessarily, Brandon, in a video that's going to live on a landing page, have to like explicitly like point to a button or anything like that, do we?
Not necessarily. You know, again, those are some tactics we're all kind of used to. I am a believer in a call to action, but in this case, it would detract a little bit from the video is, you know, if Perry's going to start pointing and say, click here now, that would detract from what he's trying to do. And it's not really necessary. And I know that goes against all the direct response laws. But here's the thing. People have gotten sophisticated. They're used to it. They know they have to click a button. They're not stupid. So let's treat them as intelligent as they are, and not like a Homer Simpson. Let's treat them as intelligent humans. And I'm not saying don't be specific where you need to be. I'm saying, you know, just enough is just enough.
Yeah, and I think at the end of this video, there was a warm invitation. It was kind of a recap of what they get, and it was a warm invitation in. Typically, what we do with our clients that are delivering sales promotions to their internal list, we talk about a warm invitation. That's kind of our style. I don't know what your guys' style is, but we, like Brandon said, we're kind of beyond that whole overhyping things. We like honest, sincere, like invitations. Like, if this is for you, you know, it's very specific. We want you to be a part of this. You need to be a part of this. That's about as hard sell as typically our clients will get. We get really kind of uncomfortable with some of the swarmy stuff that we've seen in the past. So, you know, we like the real, like, hey, you've already spent 7.5 minutes with us. Like, we don't necessarily need to do the hard pitch here. We're extending an invitation for you to do business with me, or purchase this product, or enroll in this program. You know, that's what we really like. Okay, Tyler, how often would you recommend creating these marketing videos? So that's a really good question, Tyler. So you want to, we're a big believer in creating a sales video for each kind of promotion that you do. All right. We like to say there's 3 sets of videos that every business needs. You need sales videos, you need core videos, and you need consumable videos. So what we're showing you falls directly into the sales video component. Core videos are typically your big why, about us, FAQs, that type of stuff. Consumable is actually what we're producing right now. We're going to use this video, we're going to chop it up and use it for training and promotion, but it's got a shelf life. We're not going to use this as any part of a major promotion. But what we showed you today was a specific sales video. Now, this is a temporary promotion for Perry, but a lot of our clients were creating sales videos that have 6 to 12 month, you know, time frames. You know, like the product or the service doesn't essentially change. So that consistent message keeps rolling out. So, you know, you want to create one that works, and until the parameters of that change, then you're going to stick with that. That was a good question.
Yeah.
Cool. Any other questions that anybody has?
You know, I want to comment a little bit on what Tyler asked me too. A lot of times with Perry, what we have to do is Perry is selling his mastermind, or roundtable, excuse me, his annual group. And we created that video of a few years ago, and we just did some updates this last session with him. So there's definitely, we try to keep things as evergreen as possible, but you're going to need to update things here and there, and that's totally acceptable. In fact, it's important to show that you're still relevant to your audience. So that's kind of one of the things we did in this last video session with Perry. It's like, Perry, show me that roundtable is relevant today, as opposed to 3 years ago when's the last time we filmed a promo for it. So easy to do, new footage, insert it in, can still use a lot of the existing.
Cool. Well, we appreciate you all spending an hour with us today. I know some of you are clients, some of you are thinking about working with us, and some of you we've never met. So just glad to have you here. If you have any questions after this, if you go to feedstories.com, there's a big orange button that'll allow you to do a video discovery session. Be glad to get on the call with you and just talk about your questions and you know, anything you have related to video. We've got all kinds of examples and things like that. And most of you are going to be hearing about something pretty exciting coming up in the next, Brandon, it's about 3 weeks away. So I want to let the cat out of the bag, but we're launching something pretty cool. That's going to be at a really, really, really good price. So much, in fact, that we're going to have to cap the registration, but it's going to be pretty exciting. So you guys will be amongst the first to hear about it. That's as far as we'll go with the tease, right?
Yeah, we'll leave it at that. Let's give them come back for more.
Cool. So we appreciate you. Brandon, any last words?
No, appreciate everybody coming on, and you guys can always send us an email, other stuff you'd like us to do in these calls.
Yeah.
We think we have a pretty consistent format. We want to, deconstruct videos, why they work, if you guys have any things you want to see, please shoot us an email, let us know.
Yeah. We appreciate you. All right. Have a great rest of your week. We will see you the next time we're on. Take care, everybody.
See you, everybody.